What's up, friends? Today we're here again on, believe it or not, a Maxfind board. After my last review that was so stellar, they dared to send me a board again. And today we have the Cyber Mini X. Now, the last review was on the Max 6, which appears to have now been rebranded as the Cyber Max. Not exactly sure what kind of marketing shenanigans are going on there, but as far as I can tell, it's pretty much the same board as before. I don't know if there was a previous version of this Mini that existed before they rebranded to the Cyber Mini or whatever, but today we have the Cyber Mini X, which is one of the 4 variants of their current mini board. And this one is by far the most usable, I guess. We have a 12S 2P battery in here of some Samsung cell that's about 4,700 milliamp hours or something like that. I'm not sure which one it is. I'll do some research and figure it out, but it's like 432 watt hours, and that's pretty decent for a shortboard. And compared to the Max 6, which had an astonishing range that we tested in the review that I did, which I'll link, this should do a little bit better, I would hope. And we've only done 0.7 miles so far, but the bar has not gone down yet, which is a good sign. But as per usual, this is a first ride, so we're just going to talk through some of the specs, and I'll give you my first impressions on if I like this board or not. This board is similar construction to the Max 6 in that we have a full composite plastic deck and the same terrible grip tape that's on the Max 6. Again, complaining about grip tape is kind of silly because you can switch it so easily, but it is that same plasticky clear grip tape that the Max 6 has. I don't know if this is a cost-saving measure or what, but I'm not a huge fan of it. It's not very grippy, and if you get it wet at all, you might as well not even be riding the board because it's just plastic. Again, with the similar construction, we have a unibody deck with a upper side cutout that is covered by the grip tape. While this is annoying to service, it does mean that you do have pretty good water resistance from a construction like that when you're completely enclosed with a unibody deck. The looks, they're okay. Definitely seen some better shortboards. I am personally pretty partial to the look of the loaded omakase deck, which is what's used on the Ripple. Meepo also has one that looks pretty decent, but this one isn't bad. It does have some interesting features like the lighting that's underneath. Again, almost identical to the Max 6. This is kind of like if you had the Max 6 and then just condensed it into a short frame. The one thing that is different though is the battery, which is 12S here instead of 10S on the Max 6. Hopefully that gives it a more reliable performance down towards the end of the battery voltage range. We'll see, but I'm thinking that it will. And to pair with this deck and sort of similar things, I believe that it uses the same speed controller as the Max 6, but the 12S version, it feels very, very similar. And I think it's hobby wing. It feels very smooth. Again, if I get any of this wrong, I'll put it on screen, but it should be a hobby wing speed controller that does 12S. I don't know the amperage of it. I'm guessing it's somewhere around 30 amps per motor. It feels pretty soft, and the motor size is similar to that of like the Flex ER or the Meepo Envy, sort of like that. The Envy might even have bigger motors than this, but they do the job for something that's supposed to be a shortboard with maybe a more portable style of design. Now, to get on to some positives here, I'm not just trying to trash this board the whole time. I was pretty apprehensive of this deck shape when I first looked at it and stood on it barefoot. I thought that the edges were really going to cut into my feet a lot, but surprisingly, it's not nearly as uncomfortable as I expected. It feels pretty decent, to be honest, and despite my feet hanging off the edge is not as harsh as I initially thought. It does come up a little bit, so you have sort of a little micro concave on it, but it's really not a lot. You might be able to see it there. And you can actually already see the deck lid, the outline of it coming through the grip tape there, which I always thought was interesting on the Max 6. One thing that this doesn't share with the Max 6 is its horrible flexiness. It does flex a little bit, just a tiny bit, because it is a plastic deck, but the Max 6 flexed in a way that made it feel like you could break it if you stepped on it too hard. And this is not that. It feels a lot more sturdy, probably because it's so short. And I think this plastic deck is actually doing a little bit of work to help absorb some of the vibrations coming through on the road. Along with that, we also have a new style of wheel here, which is going to be a Maxfind exclusive as far as I know. They're sort of like, what are they, 107? Yeah, 107 millimeters. And they sort of mock the style of the hollow wheels on the outside, but they don't have the same sort of hollow core and like vibration and impact absorption that those hollow wheels did. They feel very much like just like a big urethane wheel, sort of like Mad Wheels. I would say they have more shock absorption than like an ABEC 107 from back in the day, probably because of those voids on the outside, but they feel pretty good overall. And honestly, these might be something that I would test on my DIY board to get an efficiency rating, because they don't seem bad. And another feature of them that's interesting is their sort of concave wheel profile. You're not gonna be able to see it on camera here, but the actual flat surface of the wheel does have some concave to it, which is sort of opposite of what you would think you would want in a wheel. But I think what it does is it allows the wheel to sort of compress and flatten outwards once you put weight on it. And theoretically, I could see that ending up with more grip than a standard urethane wheel that does not compress. Just speculation, but interesting things to think about. And it also has some interesting grooves on the surface, sort of like similar to the Galaxy Pro wheels from Cloudwheel, if you recall those. I did a short video on those a little while back, and these have a sort of similar tread pattern. It's not identical, but same idea, I think, of water rejection and potentially having a little bit more grip. Again, really hard to prove exactly how much grip they provide, but interesting nonetheless. Very nice. Not looking at all Well, we've been going for almost 2 miles now on this board. We're still at full battery, and honestly, the ride has been pretty decent so far. I've actually enjoyed it quite a bit, and I don't really ride mini boards that much because most of the time when I go out to ride, I want to go for a long distance or take it a lot longer than I would want to ride a shortboard for. I feel like shortboards are usually more fatiguing on your body. However, I do wish that some of them had a little bit more range. And Maxfind seems to think that you can get 34 miles on this thing. We honestly might have a contender for the highest variance in actual range versus claimed range with this board. The Max 6 was the previous winner of that, and given that this is so similar, I wouldn't be surprised if this was up there in the range discrepancy leaderboard. But we'll have to see what happens when I go for a full range test, and that's going to take a little bit because I just got this board. In any case, it should offer better range than the Max 6, and that is a good thing. It does come at a cost though, and I believe this board comes in at $860, something like that. I'll put the current price on the screen. Maxfind is currently having sales on a lot of these things, so it's kind of hard to tell what the actual price is, as with a lot of these other companies, but I think it's around $860 right now. And unfortunately for them, there are a lot of boards that fall into that price category that may offer better performance, better range, and potentially a better experience than this one. But this one may check the boxes for someone that wants a shortboard that has really, really big wheels. That is one unique thing about this. We have 107mm wheels on a shortboard. It's not something that you can usually get done very easily because most of the time you're going to get wheel bite. And I don't think that you have any wheel bite issues on this deck. The trucks are in their stock configuration right now, so we'll just stop for a hot second and see if we can cause any wheel bite while stationary. Okay, you can get wheel bite, but that is a pretty steep angle to be turning at. And realistically, I would be getting foot bite way before I get wheel bite. So I guess you're not immune here, but you do get the benefit of really big wheels absorbing bumps, pebbles, cracks, etc., rather than having to worry about getting launched off your board from the tiniest pebble. Let's go off a curb here. Theoretically, a plastic deck like this might have some good durability against impacts. Time will tell. I'm not going to be curb dropping this every 3 seconds, but it is a lot more fun to curb drop shortboards than it is to do it on my full range longboards. Well, y'all may have noticed that I'm on a different route than normal. That's because I was using this to go to the store today, because I think that is one of the best use cases for a board like this. One of the things that my, for example, rev board is terrible at is going on a grocery store run, because there is no way that I want to take a 60-pound board into a store with me, stick it in my cart, have it take up basically the entire cart, and then lug it around the store. It's just a bear. With this thing, it's pretty light, so you can just mall grab it, carry it around the store, get your groceries, and you're good. Pretty simple, pretty easy. And I think that's one of the best use cases for all mini boards for that matter. But for this one in particular, for me, that's what it would be doing. I expect that this will get better range than the flight pack on the Ripple, which is what I was using for things like that before. But, you know, this is a lot more expensive. And even compared to the Max 6, this is pretty expensive for a much smaller board. I think a lot of that cost is really the cells, because with the 18650s, those are just so cheap now. They just don't have the range that the 21700s do, especially when you go to Samsung cells versus a China cell, for example. So, for going to the store, this thing works great. Got me to the store, it's gonna get me back, and it really was not that hard to carry around. So, you gotta appreciate it for that. Gotta give it a little bit of respect. And it did the job just fine. So, I've enjoyed this ride a little bit more than I thought I would. Not that I thought it was going to be bad, but you know, you have to set your expectations when you come in to a board like this one with some pretty wonky decisions with the plastic deck, and I have to say it's not bad. The trucks on this are still RKPs. And I want to say that they're the same RKPs that are on the Max 6. However, on a short deck like this, they feel a lot better, a lot more maneuverable, because your wheelbase is just that much shorter. I don't know if the bushings are the same, but so far they've been doing all right. And I can go all the way up this sort of weird bridge thing without much issue. And even if I couldn't, since I have a kicktail back here, which I'm not very good at using, you can tic-tac and do even shorter or sharper corners, which I think is convenient, but not unique to this mini board in particular. One problem though is the foot bite for sure. My feet are not that big. They're about 10.5, and it's pretty easy for me to get foot bite on this deck when I'm doing sharp turns, especially when I have my feet in a wider stance, which is what I prefer. Oh, good grief. Which is what I prefer. And that is foot bite for you. Ah. You can even see, oh wow, actually that was deck bite. You can see on the wheel and on the deck where that hit. Is my microphone okay? Oh, good grief. So anyway, I was saying, I don't know if the bushings are the same, but they seem to be doing okay. You really got to watch out for that deck bite though on these sharp turns, because it'll get you, and deck bite stops your wheel right away. So maybe I should have been tic-tacking that, but you know, I'm not an avid shortboard user, so I leave it up to my inexperience. That's full throttle right there, up to 20 miles an hour. 21. You know, I don't recall what the top speed is on here. I think it did like 37 or something insane on the bench. Let's see what it does on the bench right now. 32. I don't think there's really any chance that this is hitting 32, but I don't think I would want to ride a shortboard that fast anyway, because with a shorter wheelbase, while it's more maneuverable, it does end up being a lot more wobbly at speed. And even with big wheels like this, a small bump or something could throw you off pretty easily. So I probably won't go too much over 20 something on this, if it can even do that. And there's 20, 21. And it's really feeling like it's maxing out on power there to get above 20. So, you know, that's a combination of the ESC and the battery being capable of delivering the watts that it takes to get you over that speed. And since we're working with sort of a budget board, it's hard to call it budget when it comes in over $800, but when you're working with that and a small battery, 12S2P, you don't have a lot to pull from. So you just take your nice smooth acceleration and leave it. I will say the SE feels smooth, predictable, feels pretty much the same as the other lower end Hobbywing ESCs that I've ridden in the past. So not really a problem there. Pretty happy with that. Smooth, the brakes don't feel like they're gonna throw me off the board. As long as you don't get wheel bite, you'll probably stay on your board just fine. Carvability is all right. Like I said, these bushings and trucks seem to be doing much better on this board than they did on the Max 6. A lot more maneuverable. The Max 6 was weird because it felt both not super stable and also hard to turn at the same time. You probably could solve that with riptide bushings, but I don't have that board anymore, so I'm not gonna find out. But they're doing all right on here so far. We're going about 19 right now. And these wheels really are helping a lot with the roads here. I don't really feel too much of these bumps and vibrations at all. So the wheels and deck are doing a pretty good job on a shortboard like this to make it rideable on these sort of bad streets that I've got in my area. Brakes are all right. One of my complaints on the Max 6 was that the brakes sometimes would feel like they weren't enough to slow you down from its max speed. I haven't really gotten to a very high speed on here yet, but the brakes have felt all right so far. Of course, as with every board, this will get tested on my standard testing route and standard testing procedures. So make sure you get subscribed for that. I think I've said everything I need to about this board right now. If I forgot anything, I'll put it on screen during this talking section. But overall, it's a little bit of a better first ride than I thought. Pretty mild powered board, decently easy to ride, same decent remote, same ESC feel. Honestly, not bad. Stay safe, keep on riding, and peace out.